Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you. As mentioned, my name is Nicole. I actually support the entire UT system. And this one topic, AI and education, has been consuming most of my conversations because it's a difficult one, especially in higher education. This is looking like the most disruptive, transformative technology that we've had since the internet. And there are scary elements and there are applications of risk that we face, but there's also so much positivity. And it's really hard grappling with exactly how to embrace this, particularly in education. How do we get our students to come up with authentic thought and word? But also, how do we get them prepared for the workforce right now? This is a tough conversation. And I don't have all the answers, but what I do have is access to the LinkedIn ecosystem. And the LinkedIn ecosystem is essentially a digital representation of the global economy. Because we map every person, every skill, every job, we watch people consume content, write posts, we watch companies post jobs, we watch internal mobility, people move. We have a really unique view of what's going on, and we can run essentially aggregated data to understand what's happening. So luckily, I'll share some of that with you today and talk a little bit about how we can start to think about embracing AI in the education space. By all means, I like to keep it conversational. So if you have questions, comments, you can put them in the chat. You can certainly just, if you're in the room, just chat. So when we start to look at AI, it's really interesting in terms of what's possible. And we start to think about what's happening. According to a lot of the research that, in this case, Redefining Work did, 84% of tasks can potentially be moved to AI to increase productivity. 84%. That is a huge component of our daily work. And outside of that, when we start to look at what's happening in the job application space, there's a 21 times increase in job posts mentioning AI skills. So companies are now looking at their build buy strategy. Are they hiring for talent or are they developing talent? And they are truly trying to hire for this new talent along with building it. So thinking about those two stats alone, you can really start to grapple with how prevalent this is becoming in the industry space. Just from a personal experience, I work for LinkedIn, and we are also dealing with this internally. How do we teach folks like me to become more efficient with AI? And at first it was writing an email, writing a proposal to speak at a conference, writing something, but it has become almost every email getting reviewed by AI. It has become all of the practice environments we do run through AI, have practice conversations with clients running through AI. All the research that I do when I support different initiatives on campus, AI creating documentations for me to read. I mean, it's just become everything that I do. And a lot of the roles at the company, not just mine, are starting to move this way in the industry space. This report, the Future of Work report, was run in November 2023. I suspect that this stat will have grown even by that time. But when we ran this report, it was 44% of US executives were planning on increasing and evaluating AI in their companies and how to make their staff more productive and efficient. So really, when you think about AI, there's a lot you can do. How do you use it? Where do you use it? And truth be told, it can be in a lot of different places. The top of this pyramid, we start to see higher education entities, particularly research entities, grab onto it. And this is where we're using AI as data models, we're building them into technology. technology. This is the engineering side scope of what's happening with AI. And I do see this being used in detail with education. But the base of the pyramid, what is AI? Ethics around AI, responsibility, concerns, how to prompt AI to get what you need, basic components. A lot of this is where AI is thought to have the largest impact. Productivity with a normal, quote unquote, job using AI. And this part can sometimes be missed. And it's applicable in almost every industry. Some industries more than others, yes. You know, a locksmith probably doesn't have a ton of use for AI, but you know, almost everyone in the medical field certainly does. Most business professionals can use it in some context. And this part has a lot of risk. Right? It's an open AI, and I'm going to give away my industry secrets by using ChatGPT. But it also has the ability to take a company and increase employee productivity more so than any other work. I know in this room, are you guys using AI for productivity for your own work? Yeah? Yeah. Not quite yet. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Any good?
We had a video created for our showcase yesterday.
Yeah.
And the student who created the video got the music generated through AI.
Right.
No copyright, nothing needed. Perfect music, just exactly what we wanted. And he got it by putting in the using the prompt, and it generated the music for that video.
Yeah, I told him we can't take for copyright. I don't want careful about copyright music for video. So I use AI. Perfect. So it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Personally, I worked a while ago. And it is just a small side project I have. And nothing terribly, I'm not gonna hire a publicist for this book. But I do have to do my own promotion. And that is not my forte. I'm not gonna, So I wrote 2 prompts with AI to say, here's what I need to do. Please ask me questions. What do you need? Here's what I want. And output with, a promotion schedule on Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok and what I do, and some prompts to create an image. And it asked me 10 or 15 questions, and then laid out this entire schedule about how to promote the book I wrote with prompted AI imagery, text, content, where I should post. It took me 10 minutes. All of these little side applications that you can use using AI become really important, not just in the context of work, but sometimes for our personal projects. But regardless, this is what the companies out there are looking at. So how do we, as faculty members, as educators, support this in the context of also allowing students to learn how to do it without AI? It's a tough component. And when I talk to industry companies, I think a lot of folks are trying to assess where they are in comparison to where their peers are. And in the industry space, we see a lot of people in the emerging sort of accelerating component. Same with the higher education folks that leadership that I often talk about, or talk to. A lot of the time, it's really just where are we trying to do an assessment? Every vendor you have is probably rolling out AI tools. There are probably 1,000 available to you today. I've got 15 different AI tools in my LinkedIn products. And since your campus heavily uses LinkedIn products, they're out there now too. Okay. AI-assisted search for your recruitment team. They're all using that. AI-assisted job post writings. AI-assisted follow-up messaging for your recruitment team. And within your LinkedIn Learning platform, which is the platform you all have available to use in your teaching curricula, there's an AI-assisted coach where you can go in and ask your questions. The LinkedIn side alone, Microsoft, of course, has has their components, just about everyone else. So looking at all of these, trying to assess which ones are OpenAI, which ones are closed AI, how do we effectively use this, is certainly where most people sit. So if you're sitting in this emerging bucket, just trying to figure out, okay, with all this AI coming at me, you're not alone. For us, the first step is just figuring out which components you feel the most comfortable with and which tools you use are building AI into the platform in a safe, effective manner that you can really use and leverage from an individualized perspective. And then from a teaching perspective, where and how do we start to get our students prepared? When we think about preparedness for students, depending on what they do, it can be all the way into large data sets and building in AI into applications that they're building. But the bare minimum requirements that everyone should know is understanding ethics and risks that go along with AI. And then the 3 core things you should be able to do with AI. Know when to use it versus human intelligence. We don't want an over-reliance on AI. And we don't need to be robots. When do we need our personalities to shine through? When do we need that human touch versus AI? How to talk to it, prompting the AI, and the evaluation of AI output. This one is particularly important. I'm not sure if you heard, but about a year and a half ago, there was a lawyer, I think he was on the East Coast, who used AI to write his prompts. There were no stories, read his briefs. Yeah. AI hallucinated a case. He didn't double check his work, and he submitted it with a fake case. Yeah, he almost got disbarred. They did let him keep his law license, but he had to pay $5,000 for every single case he referenced that was fake. And the judge mentioned that had he cited that he had used AI to write these prompts, the penalty wouldn't have been as strict. Now, that's just one of many use cases, but AI does hallucinate. It's not a final draft, ever. Right? We always need to be able to evaluate and look at the output of AI and understand if this is truly serving our needs and then being able to modify it. So these 3 applications or these 3 activities are really what every single person should be able to do. Probably fairly quickly. And I linked some LinkedIn, or I can link. I put images of LinkedIn learning courses. So certainly we at LinkedIn have 700 courses on AI, and most of them courses and videos and whatnot, access different components. But for me, the one thing that has been probably the most beneficial is the prompt engineering content. I am so far from an engineer. My job is to talk. So that is what I do. When I think about the word engineering, I get uncomfortable. So I, when I thought about prompt engineering, I just was sort of overwhelmed. But regardless, I did take, and you can see the screenshot from my personal LinkedIn course just completed there. I did take that course, and it has been so wildly impactful just to understand how the AI thinks and how I can work with it and how I can get it to do more than write emails. So for me personally, those were the ones that were probably the most impactful if you're wanting to start somewhere.
Who are doing these courses? I mean, who are they, some of the experts, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. So LinkedIn Learning is interesting in the fact that all of our courses sit on top of the LinkedIn ecosystem. So first, before we get to who's doing them, what we do is decide which courses to make. And that comes from a combination of the LinkedIn data. So what are people searching for? What are people talking about? What requirements are our clients, particularly our higher education clients, asking of us? And what are job requirements out there that we maybe don't touch on? So once we get an idea of a course, then we go into our content library of authors. So we have industry recognized professionals. Most of them actually are faculty members themselves that we have partners with, or we will go out and find someone who is well published in the area. We can give them screen tests, make sure they translate well in context, and we usually fly them out to our production studio. It's the largest production studio outside Hollywood. So if you're ever in Carpinteria, California, let me know and then we'll arrange a tour for you. But they are almost always, we have a few in-house authors, but for the most part, they are almost always industry recognized professionals. If you're in LinkedIn Learning, it will actually show a link to the author's LinkedIn profile, so you can see exactly what they're actually doing.
So do you feel these courses are appropriate for our students to take as well? Or should we be taking, or should we all be taking them, or just us, or them, you know?
You know, LinkedIn Learning is one of many teaching components that you have access to. On my learning journey, I think a lot of it has been LinkedIn Learning because it's very biased and required to take a lot of the content, and I love it. I really do. Is it the only place in the world that you should be getting AI content? Probably not. Right? There are a ton, like I said, 600 or so courses on AI in LinkedIn Learning right now, and we're building more. Not all of them are appropriate for me. When you start talking about the engineering ones, I'm like, no, absolutely not. So yeah, I think that for you guys yourselves to become more productive, definitely there's probably some courses, but particularly for your students. The thing about LinkedIn courses, and I'll get there in a minute, is every single course earns a student a badge or micro-credential that they can then sync to their LinkedIn profile. Turns out that actually really matters. Like pull the skills onto people's LinkedIn profiles. They can put the certifications on their resume, and it is actually having an impact on your students here at this particular campus. So we do want them to be earning these badges and micro-credentials and skills, definitely. But in the context of a classroom, there's only so much learning and key learning video can teach students, right? If you tell them, hey, go take this, earn your badge, put it on your profile, versus, hey, go take this, let's talk about it in class. Let's discuss applications and let's practice do a project around it. That's so much more meaningful. So think of it like a textbook. Do they read every single piece of the textbook that you assign? Probably not. But I'm sure.
Ask AI to read it for me.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some applications here that are very relevant. So when we do look at LinkedIn Learning, and I mentioned this, but LinkedIn is built on this ecosystem. And so one thing I want to mention is when you are engaging with students, and certainly for yourselves too, is they have the option to access LinkedIn Learning directly, your campus account, or they can connect their personal profile and access it in that way. For you guys, definitely, but for the students, so important that they're connecting their profile. And the reason is LinkedIn is going to read who they are, what student they are, what campus they're at, what geographical location. It will say, all right, UTA students typically stay in the state of Texas, and in the state of Texas, these are the most prevalent skills required on job descriptions in those areas. And then it will start to recommend content based on the geography where they think the student is going to go, or the industry. So it's going to actually recommend the content down to the individual. You guys have about 8,400 faculty and staff that have LinkedIn profiles and about 27,000 students who represent themselves on LinkedIn. So we're pulling all this content into your LinkedIn Learning instance and then being able to recommend content down to them. So if you go into LinkedIn and you have a connected profile, see if it starts to mention AI to you. Does this is some things that you need? I don't know. What else? What other skills does it think you need? But again, particularly for students, it's really going to start to recommend content to them that will make them more hireable from a business skill perspective.
Question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that the students go directly into LinkedIn Learning, or we put it into Canvas and do the link from there? And then if it's in Canvas, and this is more for the university, what is the risk of student data from Canvas being taken by AI? And where do we stand on the legality of that?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is I've been asking my students to do it online, but I haven't linked it into Canvas, so it's totally different.
Yeah, I can see, I have a slide on that actually. Yeah, I
My
can see
preference
that.
would be to do it through Canvas, so I know that they've actually done what I've asked them to do. But I'm worried about creating the data that comes from the university.
Yeah. So LinkedIn is in a unique situation. We actually don't collect, store, or process any confidential information as part of your learning account. Like, we're not even bound by text ramps. I work in detail with every single one of your schools in the UT system and the system office itself in and around security. And that is a huge piece for us. LinkedIn prides ourselves on being the most trusted social network. There are a lot that are very untrusted, and we don't want to call it that. So by all means, the trust and security is absolutely imperative. But in your particular case, Ron,
Well,
you can pop
yeah,
in.
Melissa Roach is also on, and Ron that may be able to respond. Melissa's expert with Canvas as well.
Yeah.
So I know, Melissa, did you hear the question?
Well, I was going to say, I think you guys actually, your authentication, your single sign-on passes LinkedIn Learning authentication credentials. I'm not sure if it's email or some sort of identifiable code. I thought it was a code, but Ron could actually correct me.
Yes. So I can respond to that a little bit. I think I heard most of the question. So you can post the LinkedIn, the actual direct link to courses or specific videos anywhere. You can put that into your curriculum in Canvas. And also there is a link from within Canvas. I believe it's under assignments, and it's basically takes you to the LinkedIn Learning calendar where you can pick and choose and add things from there directly into the class. Now, I can also make an instructor an admin on LinkedIn Learning where they can create a group for their class and then monitor activity and do all sorts of reports and things like that. So we'll talk more about that maybe a little bit later. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, the university has no problem with the legality of student data on that.
We go through a lot of FERPA information, I think where you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
And they don't actually. FERPA is defined as like, processing records, personal identifiable information. We're talking about viewing a video.
Right.
And so there's no tests, there's nothing like that. It's just personal. And so we actually have gone through like pretty rigorous security reviews from that perspective, and they don't, but we also don't store it. It's stored within your, like,
Right.
your components.
And
So it's
Melissa,
not, no one else
Melissa's,
can
Melissa Roach is from the Center for Distance Education, so I know she's been, typing into the chat. So Melissa, did you want to add anything? Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me turn my sound down.
I can hear you. Good.
Okay, sorry about that. The data that's sent from MyMav to Canvas, there's no what we consider confidential data. There's no, we do collect the student ID, student email, address, name, but that's about it. There's no social security numbers. None of that type of data is transmitted. And so, and as you said, whenever, students use single sign-on to go over to LinkedIn Learning, I mean, the only data that could be passed most likely is their email address. That would probably be the most likely data to pass would be email address and maybe their name.
That's it. That's all that's passed.
That's all. Great. Yeah.
Perfect.
sometimes a picture, depending on. But that's really it. It's not anything nefarious. But I will say the benefits of going through Canvas are pretty neat. Not only do you get the tracking and reporting to see that they've actually consumed it, but from a student perspective, if the content is assigned in Canvas and they're already logged in from a single sign-on, they click the content, they don't actually need to then authenticate it to LinkedIn Learning, it passes authentication and launches a little bit differently, houses what they need, they don't need to find it. So it's easier for them, definitely. It's easier for you because you don't even need to go to LinkedIn Learning, you can just assign it directly within Canvas and you can see the tracking. So I really like the LTI plugin. We worked really hard on that thing. But you know, it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. Here's your current usage. And compared to your peers, you can see who I benchmarked you against. If you can't read it, it's like SMU, Tarrant County, A&M Commerce, TCU, Texas Women's, UT Dallas, UNT. But you can see what you're consuming versus what your peers are consuming. I will note that AI is on your peers, but not quite yours yet. That being said, when I do look at your campus's fastest growing skills being consumed on campus, it is. AI is at the #1 list. Now only 217 users, but this was in a 3-month period, it just spiked at your campus. So I did find that interesting. And this is a skill, so it could be a number of different courses, but you know, in the last couple of months, you guys have jumped up quite a bit on these. And then I think, yeah, so here is your access data. So the orange is people accessing LinkedIn Learning directly, which is what you were talking about, syncing, you know, the links in there. And the blue is actually coming through your Canvas integration, your LTI. So there's actually very few faculty members who are signing it through Canvas. And I find that interesting. I wonder if there's, you know, a knowledge gap of maybe perhaps about security or just not knowing how to do it. This is another one of those other peers schools that I mentioned. In their case, they have the vast majority of their usage coming through their LTI integration. So not a bad or a good thing, just wanted to highlight that looks like you have a ton of usage. You have a lot of people, a lot of students, a lot of faculty, a lot of staff, all using LinkedIn Learning. They are accessing it directly versus the LTI use. It's there for you if you want it.
Maybe something that we can do as a center as well, some of our sessions. Right. On how to do it, and how to.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting facts. I don't necessarily think it's bad that you're having people go directly to LinkedIn Learning. It's actually good for me because then students get to use LinkedIn Learning. Right. It's just a good thing. But I want to make it easy for you to do it. So that integration is there. I know Ron works really hard setting it up. And then we talked about a lot of this, but just so you know, there's some benefits to it. Students can really take it anywhere. They can there's a lot of accessibility components that are built in. That's why we allow it on college campuses. There's Q&A, there's notebook features, there's exercise files. If it's a technology course, there's CoderPad and things built in. And every single course does earn the student a certificate, which is the big piece. They can sync it onto their LinkedIn profile, and depending on the course or the learning path that they're consuming, there are different ways that they show up. So you can kind of see what they are. And then splashing. There's also a whole bunch of different types of content. So there's courses, and each course is broken up into videos. So as a faculty member, you can assign just a 5-minute video. You can assign a full course, or if you want something more comprehensive, a learning path, which is a series of courses that folks can take and them. You can also beg Ron for access, and you can create your own learning paths or collections. And then beyond that, there's a ton more. The documentaries are very popular on college campuses. There's audio only. There's live and recorded webinars. There's just a lot of content that's available for you into a classroom or for your own personal growth. The learning paths are pretty slick too. I think you've got like 260 learning paths pre-prepped, and they're intended to be consumable within the context of a semester. So all of them are like 4 to 16 hours of work, something that could be assigned in the context of a classroom. It's not going to be like 16 months or anything like that. So you can definitely play around with those. And then we have industry recognized certifications and cert prep. So I want to distinguish, as I mentioned, every course comes with a certification. We do a LinkedIn Learning certification, but there are also industry recognized certifications that are out there. Some of which can be completely consumed and obtained within your LinkedIn Learning ecosystem. And then there are also certain prep courses where you can take all the preparation, including the practice exam, and do all the learning, but you have to go to a third-party testing site. So 2 different types of industry recognized certifications. And I mention this because I have a couple of schools in Texas specifically that are very focused on getting their students industry recognized certifications. I will note that there is an AI productivity industry recognized cert via Microsoft that is completely available within LinkedIn Learning. So it can be all the content consumed in the industry badge earned directly within your campus. So if you haven't checked that out, that one's a pretty good one to start with on this particular topic. I started it. I finished something. Has anyone here ever earned any of these industry recognized certifications on this list? They can be pretty expensive if you go and consume the content outside of LinkedIn Learning. Each individual one can often be a couple $1,000 to get the learning. So they're definitely in there, no additional cost. Okay, and then just so you guys know, on your campus, we do track your students. So the students who consume LinkedIn Learning content, earn the badges, and into their profile, versus your students who have not, and they go on to graduate. There is a slightly higher graduation rate for your students who have. I mean, it's negligible, but you know, it doesn't matter. And then the first degree connections are actually notably bigger. Now this becomes important for our first-time college grads, students who become disadvantaged populations. We have to get them to build a network. Unfortunately, the world that we live in today, it really does matter who you know in a lot of instances. And so getting students, particularly ones who may not be born into a familial network, to build their own LinkedIn ecosystem is really helpful. It seems to be having an effect there. And then certainly they're applying for more jobs on LinkedIn specifically. So it is having an effect for your students earning these badges. And then of course, lots of different use cases. So I sent this, or Anne has this deck, but there's some case studies that go to different institutions on these codes that you can scan, but you know, there's all kinds of different use cases. A lot of different campuses that use this tool definitely use it to cut out textbook costs, book the classroom, add the supplemental material, real life examples, documentaries, blended classroom experiences. So different options for you available. I think you guys will talk about how you use it. Yeah. Yeah. Any sneak peek?
You know, actually, you're showing it all.
It's good. That's a big one. Yeah, I know there's some campuses that have like ways that students can search, like, you know, how, like, is this class going to be a zero cost class? And then those classes fill up really fast. It's definitely an interesting component, but a lot of the time on campuses that have those types of programs, this tool gets used heavily in those particular classes. And we also launch 60 new courses a week. So the technology courses, I mean, if you're using a textbook and it takes 5 years to produce a textbook, a lot of the time it's hard to have the textbook cover the most recent version of the technology, whereas we can produce it very quickly. I added a script for a syllabus if you want to add it in here, just additional resources, course recommendations link, so you can grab that if needed. And then just, you know, I think it's worth saying that there's not LinkedIn content for every course that someone is going to teach. You know, organic chemistry, we're not going to have an organic chemistry course on here. But where LinkedIn Learning is going to shine outside of just AI is business skills that are needed across every component. And it could be getting through school, like study tips, writing a research paper, grammar. So, but there are lots of different business contexts that this becomes important. How to deal with difficult coworkers, how to be a team. Yes, you've got to thumb up for that one. How to you know, participate in groups effectively. So all kinds of different skills, business skills that are going to be really applicable to everyone across the board and be really helpful from this context. And then, of course, you know, things like flipping the classroom, making sure that you have the context. So you'll see lectures, webinars, documentaries, all kinds of things that you can then use in the context of a classroom. If you're not sure how to get started, like there's 16,000 courses on LinkedIn, it can be a little daunting. So you do have some resource mapping context. First, there is AI-assisted learning directly, or an AI-assisted coach directly in LinkedIn Learning. So I just went in here this morning actually and typed this prompt. I'm a faculty member at the university teaching intro to economics. Of course, it's kind of used in classroom. And here are the 3 that it recommended. So I love using the AI coach directly within LinkedIn Learning. It's on the learner view, so definitely play with that if you haven't already. But beyond that, the search criteria is really good. You can narrow down by course, by video, by learning path. You can do some searches. There are also all kinds of repositories and mappings that we have done on your behalf for you. So you can definitely pull in and look at some of the mappings that we've done. And beyond all of that, we do offer content mapping. So if your campus comes to me and you're like, hey, our faculty came together and we created a list of 700 topics we potentially want to look at LinkedIn Learning content for, you can submit it to me, Ron, or Ann, and we will map LinkedIn Learning content to every topic that you care about. So you can search for it, AI coach, look at the repository, or ask us to map for you. So you've definitely got some options if you're not quite sure where to get started with what content. And that is all I had, but I think we've got some other speakers here, but hopefully this is helpful. Does anyone have any questions initially? No, okay. If not, pass it to you. Yeah.
Sure.
So if
And where does this go?
Canvas, it's still linked to their profile.
Yeah.
This is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's, I like love that.
Oh, this is first.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, I personally also love it.
Okay.
For
hard drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the benefit of having contact directly with LinkedIn, but the faculty members, they don't actually need Canvas to find the content. Refresh daily, so you want 16 courses per week, so every time you go, there's a different variety of courses. And then from a student perspective, when they're taking it, they can just click and just define what course you want. So for example, if you assign a 5-minute video, they're not gonna accidentally take 3 hours. So that can be an issue. If they start to take it, and if you only have to take 1 5-minute video, it won't. So define some parameters for it as well. Pass with the But yes, they still definitely get the credit. Any other questions about that?
Do you recommend that you, as a professor, I mean, I didn't watch the videos, they go through the whole thing. I mean, I've learned that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the state of Texas specifically, yes, absolutely. There are some legal ramifications about assigning content that touches on certain topics that you want to be real careful about. So yeah, absolutely. Not only do you need to know what you're assigning, but you need to make sure that we're not touching on topics that are sort of.
Most of you know me. I've been at UTA since 2008, and I've been a power user of LinkedIn Learning since it was lynda.com, if you remember that. Yes, so always loved it. It's good supplemental instruction. I started using it for myself to fill in the cracks or the gaps that I wasn't getting with any kind of formal mentoring, or just, you know, sort of the drive-by topics. I needed something that just-in-time learning, or I needed some soft skills that I just wasn't able to find elsewhere. So, and then after I sort of used it on my own, which I recommend, I ventured into integrating it into my courses. And I mainly use it with some PhD students that I mentor and teach from the College of Business, interestingly enough, where I teach them a course on teaching at the university level. And I want to differentiate it for them because they all have different backgrounds and interests and experiences, and LinkedIn Learning helps fill those gaps in. And I also think certain colleges are more partial to LinkedIn Learning. This could be not true, but it's sort of my observation that College of Business and College of Engineering have been heavily using it. So I'll mention a conversation I had with a College of Engineering topic. I don't know if there's data to support that.
There is, absolutely.
Okay.
Not just this campus.
That's just my gut instinct.
Creative engineering and business always.
Yeah, because that was my hunch. Just no data to support it, but just based on life or whatever. So I try to predict the future, and I think these types of tools that can support self-directed learning fit right in with where we're heading with learning. Much with the internet and a digital age, we really need to leverage these tools. So I'll just start out, and I'll show my own LinkedIn profile and courses I've taken. But yeah, I would say start out if you're not using it on your own. So start your own learning, and you can participate in short courses. Some of them are short, like 30 to 60 minutes. And sometimes I put it on in the background as if it were a podcast. So it's a little less visual, but I'm still learning. Or I'll listen to it twice. I'll watch it, and then I'll listen to it again, because sometimes I just need to do that. And that's the power of video-based learning, is you can listen or learn multiple times. So again, I favor soft skills, women at work, or teaching, create an amazing syllabus. There was one I watched that you wouldn't think it was for faculty, but it was helpful, and it was developing an executive presence. So it was like body language, how to stand. Well, obviously, I'm not an executive, but I would love to have the body language of an executive. And so how do you have that gravitas? And so I need to watch it again. But it was really good, and it just talked about things I wouldn't ordinarily learn elsewhere. So those are some of the ones I've taken. And then you can post your accomplishments. So that's a good start. And then that whole idea, I feel like I'm repeating you, but this idea of LinkedIn Learning as micro-credentials. So that's another trending idea. And we all know the UT system is interested in micro-credentialing, and UTA is going to be starting some programs this summer. So I think this is a perfect way to think of LinkedIn Learning. And I know there are engineering faculty who are requiring their students to complete certificates. Does anyone in here do that, or know of other people? You do? Dr. Kabari does. Okay. You do? Yeah. Okay, perfect. And the value of that is they can post this externally and use their LinkedIn Learning as a sort of portfolio, very visible, and so on. And so there's ways OIT has given information to students, and then also encouraging students to use it for self-directed learning. So remediation, for lack of a better word. Oh, I'm not very good at Excel. And so students can also just sort of go off on their own, down their own rabbit hole with LinkedIn Learning. So you can also create playlists. So I've done that where I don't necessarily want them to watch all of the content, but as instructors, one of our quote 21st century skill sets is to curate content. And so if you can curate that content for them, you've at least provided some self-directed learning for them. And then they're adults. Hopefully they can find what they need to fill in gaps to remediate. So let me switch gears, and Anne, if you can tell me if my LinkedIn is visible. Okay, so this is my profile. It needs a little more work, but I'm trying. And it's mainly a networking space. And so like was said before, you just link your account. So basically you just go to that top right corner, access LinkedIn Learning. Mainly what I do with LinkedIn Learning is I create playlists for myself. I create playlists for students, and I embed the training courses into Canvas. So those are kind of my big three things. So it's easy to link and interface and connect and share. And on the bottom of your actual LinkedIn profile, you can showcase your awards. It also shows in that news feed that was just visible for 5 seconds what you've done, and that's kind of an interesting way to display those skills. Even if it's a soft skill, people are like, oh, that's what you're thinking of. There's also this idea of social proof where people, it's basically role modeling. So people will see that you completed a course and maybe be inspired to do that course themselves, or, to pique their interest. So the whole idea of networked learning is really crucial and important. But back to how we use it with our classrooms. So I have a YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and type my name, and I'm trying to talk to more people, and Dr. Bonnie Boardman is a wonderful example. I have a 7-minute podcast where I talk to her, and she talks about how she replaces her textbook with LinkedIn Learning videos. She also, like I was saying, curation is a key concept. She curates playlists of videos. She has just found through teaching and life and everything, her students struggle with things like file management and citations. So she has pulled together some resources for those high need areas. I'm teaching a class that where we have students from Russia and UTA students, and the focus is global communication. So I went and pulled and curated some content on global communication or cross-cultural communication, because they all need that skill set because we're doing so much dialogue. So Bonnie also curates, highly recommended. She recommends using it for faculty to create supplemental resources. And a few quotes from that podcast. I would say the easiest thing to do would just be to think about those things your students struggle with, so that you can help them. And it's more of a resource you're trying to help them with. They're just so super easy to reuse once you find them. So the hard work is finding and then just recycle over time. Any comments or thoughts or things you want to try, or people on teams I didn't need to ignore?
I'll say that building your own lists is so helpful.
You can grab that share button, you can pull it together, you can make your own list and you can share them. But those are not then findable for everyone. You can also ask Ron for admin access. I don't know, Ron, if you have any parameters that they have to go through to get this.
There's a ServiceNow ticket that you can process. That's it's in ServiceNow, and I can get that link for you and put it in the chat. But that's really something I can do for you too. If you just shoot me a message and let me know you want to be an admin in LinkedIn Learning, I'll make you an admin, and then I'll send you some links to the admin training class in LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah, so I don't see admin here, but if you are an admin, you'll have this go to admin tab, and once you're in there, it's very.
I'll wrap up. I was able to open Google Chrome and bypass all the Bing stuff, but there's actually a class in LinkedIn called Teaching with LinkedIn Learning on the meta level. But yeah, so yeah, you can save things. It tells you what you're doing in progress, really niche topics that are personal to you. Yeah, so I recommend saving them. It's like bookmarking them, and so on. So I believe collections are playlists. So this is the one I use with the PhD students. And I don't use all of them, but I have selected some that we'll be using, and I'll name them and mention them. And then there's others if they want to enrich their own learning. So the playlist idea is really great. You've probably done this on YouTube. They're called My Collections, Learning to Teach Online, you know, just stuff that you want to learn. They can be playlists for you or playlists for your students.
Who decides, like, do you have people in your team that decide this is good teaching, this is good education, or whatever? I mean, who makes the decision that it's good?
Are you talking about the content or the collection? The content itself, yeah. So we do. We have a whole content team that vets it, and they're typically working with industry recognized, published individuals. If you go in and you look at content, there's going to be a lot of different authors with a lot of different views, and sometimes even varying views. So if I search, you know, some controversial topics, there will likely be content from multiple different authors from multiple different viewpoints. So I actually really like taking the authors that I like, and sticking to their content, particularly as you start to get into more detailed topics.
Yeah.
I have one more thought.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I find a really great presenter, you know, it gives you the option to follow them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and like, if you go into the Q&A section, I mean, these authors are paid on royalties. So oftentimes if you engage with their content and you ask questions, the authors themselves will come in and actually have a conversation with you publicly in the Q&A.
So what's the proof of completion? Sorry, Peggy, if you dealt with this, I had to step out for a few minutes. So if I want to assign a course to my students, I assume there's a certificate of completion that they can provide me at the end. Is there anything else that goes along with that?
So if you assign it in Canvas, Canvas will actually track exactly what you assigned, did they complete that portion. So that's, I love this integration guide. So that would be my recommendation. But if you assign a course specifically or a certification specifically, those are going to be longer, maybe 30 minutes to 3 hours. There is a certification that they could then download and give to you afterwards. But Canvas piece eliminates all that. And the tracking is all there.
Did you show on the recording how to do that integration?
No, I don't have access to your Canvas instance.
Did she? Okay.
Okay, I will look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ron's got some stuff.
So, Ron, yeah, so.
Hey, yeah, can y'all see my screen?
Yeah,
So this is the certification section that y'all were talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so under the Microsoft tab, that's where the AI certification is. That top one. That one is becoming increasingly popular.
career essentials. is doing that.
So if a student completes all 6 of these items, it's about 4.5 hours of content, then they get an industry recognized certification in AI.
Nice.
That's
Right.
one that's being promoted.
Very good.
Let's see if anybody's doing that. See what our trends are right now. So
Ron has the admin access up now, so now you can really start to see exactly what's happening. Yeah.
So just, oh, by the way, we have some partner content out there. So someone has uploaded their own content.
Yep, you can actually film your own content and upload it, upload PDFs with admin access. So
Okay.
control. Yeah.
So this is past 90 days. And Excel is always up there. Writing a resume is always up there, especially this time of year. There's all the soft skill stuff, developing your professional image and business etiquette and so forth. I'm looking to see if this AI one has hit yet, because I know there've been some people talking about it, but not quite yet. To people too focused on their job seeking right now. There are other reports that an admin can pull, but I really think that when you look at how the Canvas integration works, if you're teaching a class, creating another group somewhere else is just kind of overkill, because you can get all the information of activity from the Canvas side with that deep integration. So I recommend going that route, but if you do want admin access to look at some of this other stuff and see some of these trends, also allows you to upload your own content and so forth. I'm happy to make you an admin. Takes me 2 minutes.
Excellent.
So that means that the Spanish version is available. Is that, do you have multi languages?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So most, not all, most courses will come, I think there's like 8 languages that are available. Your campus is Spanish most often, but yeah, absolutely. For our ESL students, it's so helpful sometimes for them to learn in their own native language.
So is that automatic? Or you have to pick it? Can the student just automatically say, I'm
Yeah.
going to?
Yeah, they can search and toggle between languages in their studies. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole, I've not done that. Where is the language selection?
I think it is in settings. They just changed the interface, so I might have to play with it. I think it's like if you hover over your picture is just like a.
I'm sorry, hover over.
Your own picture?
Well, normally
Oh.
it's your own picture, but I think it's, yeah, there you go. So some settings, and so I think you can, there's English, there you go. There's all your languages.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool.
Quite a few.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, if you need to practice a language at the same time, not only can you learn how to teach whatever, but you can also learn how to teach it in a different language. There are language courses in here, I know, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had so many different translations of the content.
Yeah, initially it was just 6 languages, but this has been like a big focus for us, and now we have a lot of languages. Oh. Are you on the Gen AI course? There you go.
Yeah,
And
I started it.
There you go. In the very beginning, I'll point out that every course is comprised of chapters, and then there's a formative chapter quiz. So this is truly for the learner. The results aren't recorded anywhere, but it's just so that they stop and engage and make sure that they understood, what's being taught in this particular piece. So you can just assign a chapter. The other thing that I'll mention is there's almost always a welcome video, and that welcome video is usually like 1 to 3 minutes, and they're going to kind of cover what's going to be, what the course is all about and the tone of the course. Additionally, if you scroll down over here, not on the chapter part, it will also tell you what skills are going to be covered. And this is important because these skills covered are also going to be the skills that are then tagged to your LinkedIn profile on the back end, even if you don't see the profile certification. So that part is really, really helpful to understand what skills your students are then going to be, what skills you're essentially tagging your students' profiles with. So if you know your top employer in the state is often requiring a certain skill, you can assign a LinkedIn course, they consume it, and then that skill gets automatically tagged to that student's profile in the back end, makes that employer, it makes the student more findable to that employer.
So with the Canvas integration, just like the instructor perspective, go through that process to get that in your Canvas course. And once you have the integration, is UTA curating a list of courses and you have to choose from those courses, or when you integrate, you can choose anything inside of LinkedIn Learning?
Anything inside of LinkedIn Learning, yeah. And every day it's refreshed. So I think it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. It's refreshed with the new courses. We do retire courses sometimes. So if one of your courses that is synced in Canvas becomes retired, it won't go away. There'll just be like a tag at the top that says, there's a newer version of this course. Click here to look at it. So it will still be accessible.
And when you're searching these courses, I assume that there's some kind of estimated time to complete. So all of them have, everything has that?
Yeah, everything has that. So videos, learning pads, courses, all of them are there.
As
So
a general rule, the ones that they get the badges for,
Courses,
those are courses. That's not just watching the video.
no. Yeah.
Yes, they get the badge. Generally, how long does a badge take?
So it really depends. There are some short form courses, some audio only courses. All of them have badges, and it will show you like badge eligible, certification eligible on the bottom. Sometimes the live webinars are not certification eligible, so you can see that. But I've seen courses 20 minutes. I've seen courses 18 hours. So it really depends. But on the topic, the more technical in nature, obviously.
So with the Canvas integration, let's say you find a video, whatever activity that's say 10 minutes or 15, whatever. Is Canvas like marking completion? Don't worry about the administrative side of the grading that they've done it.
Yeah.
How does it just automatically mark it complete, or do I have to go in and check their badges?
It will automatically mark it complete, is my understanding. I have never used Canvas a day in my life.
Melissa's here. Maybe Melissa, do you know?
Yes, when you integrate the a course from LinkedIn Learning as an assignment in Canvas, there's 2 ways to do it. There's an assignment, or you can add it as a page in Canvas. If you do an assignment, it creates a column in the grade book. And then once the student completes the course fully, they'll get their certificate, which shows on their LinkedIn side, but it will show it's be marked complete in Canvas
So
in the grade book.
What's a completion mark in Canvas? Yeah.
Even just for a video. It's not a course, it's just a video resource.
Different LMSs are different. I would have to look into it in Canvas.
Does it-
Unless Melissa knows.
Melissa, if it's just a video they watched, would it show that too?
I'll need to dig into that a little bit deeper. Can I have the person? I'll put my email address in the chat, and can you reach out to me directly?
Okay.
And we'll find that out. I'm not the trainer.
And I do want to thank Nicole. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Peggy, so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your presentation. And thanks everyone for attending. So thank you.